I was listening to Dr. K, also known as the healthy gamer, over breakfast, and he started talking about rumination. And immediately I felt something in my body, not because it was new to me, but because I've lived this. I know this. I've been this. I've sat in overthinking, not as a thought process, but as a way to not feel. We live in a world where overthinking is sometimes glamorized. We slap it on dating profiles, we call it a quirk. But the truth, chronic overthinking, what psychology calls rumination, isn't a thinking problem. It's a feeling avoidance problem. But let's be honest. When you say you're overthinking, it's usually not because you feel empowered. It's because you feel stuck, disconnected, numb, and maybe exhausted. And here's what most people miss: overthinking is not the root problem, it's the cover up. It's the mind trying to protect you from the thing underneath, the feeling. In yogic philosophy, we talk about the different layers or functions of the mind. There's the lower mind, what we might call ego mind, which is task oriented, problem solving, past and future driven. And then there's the higher mind, which is more intuitive, present, open, discerning. The lower mind isn't inherently bad, but when it's in control and you're stuck there, you lose touch with your emotional body, your breath, your presence, your energy. And that's what rumination is. It's the lower mind on repeat, trying to think its way out of what only the heart or the body can process. Dr. K actually said something powerful. He said people who ruminate can't just talk it out. In fact, traditional psychotherapy often makes it worse because the more they talk about the problem, the more they feed the loop. And there is also research backing this. Dr. K shared something that really stuck with me. He said that rumination actually impairs your sensitivity to real life, to the present moment. It makes it harder for you to pick up on what's actually happening around you, whether that's a cue for connection or change or even love. Instead, you become consumed by the loop, the same thought, the same judgment, the same story. And what's worse, rumination magnifies pain. It takes what you're feeling and amplifies it until that pain becomes your entire reality. And the more pain you feel, the more you think. And the more you think, the more disconnected you become. That's why talking doesn't always help, because you're not getting underneath it. You're just adding more fuel to a fire that wants to burn itself out. And let me say that again. You're not stuck because of the thought. You're stuck because of the unfelt feeling that thought is protecting you from. And that is why mindset work doesn't help someone caught in a ruminating pattern. Because as soon as something happens, rejection, disappointment, shame, everything they learned in the mindset work goes offline. The nervous system reverts, the loop restarts. And that's the part I don't hear enough people talking about. We don't just need better thoughts. We need deeper access to our bodies, to our breath, to the place underneath the story. I want to share something Dr. K said in the episode because I think it deserves more attention. He spoke about his own struggles with rumination, how he felt like a loser throughout high school and even into med school. That sense of inadequacy, of being fundamentally flawed, followed him. And when he started doing clinical psychotherapy sessions as part of his training, he realized something. The tools he was using weren't helping people like him. People who ruminated didn't get better by more talking. In fact, talking often made it worse. It fed the loop. So he did something bold. He started incorporating practices from his personal life like meditation, pranayama, self inquiry, yogic, and Ayurvedic practices. Practices he learned from monks, Eastern teachers, and his own lived experience. He wasn't just experimenting, he was integrating. And then he got fired. Not because he was harming anyone, not because he was wrong, but because his supervisor told him, I can't supervise you. I don't know how to guide someone who works this way. And here's what struck me. He said she was right. She couldn't guide him. It wasn't her fault. It was the system. The system wasn't built for this kind of healing. But what he didn't say, and what I want to say, is this: the moment wasn't just a professional boundary, it was a spiritual rupture between surface level coping and deep level healing. Because when you're ruminating, you're not just stuck in thoughts, you're stuck above the feeling, you're looping above the wound, never going under, never truly releasing. And this is what yoga teaches. The true intelligence isn't just logic, it's felt sense, it's emotional awareness, it's inner listening. The ruminator doesn't lack logic, they often worship it. But that logic becomes a mask, a pedestal for knowing that replaces being. And the more we stay in that loop, the more emotionally disconnected we become. Emotional intelligence requires emotional presence, and presence requires embodiment. I want to pause here and give Dr. K a shout out because honestly, I've learned a lot from him. He has an OBS approach that I appreciate. He doesn't circle around the truth. Some people might not appreciate his style, but I really do. And that's why I was surprised when he told the story of a supervisor firing him. He said she was right. And in one sense, yes, I completely understood. He wasn't following the rules of the curriculum. He stepped outside the boundaries of what his supervisor could oversee. I get that. But what struck me is what followed. He went on to cite research showing that talk therapy isn't effective for people who ruminate. And I kept waiting for him to circle back to say, yes, I broke the rules, but also the system is missing something essential because that's the truth he was already living. He was helping people by introducing meditation, pranayama, yogic psychology, tools that actually address what rumination does, which is keep you looping above the feeling. What I wish had happened is a conversation, not just a dismissal, but because meditation is therapy. Yoga is therapy. Healing doesn't belong only to doctors or licensed professionals. It belongs to life itself. It belongs to how we integrate all parts of ourselves so that wholeness can emerge. That's why I resonate with Dr. K. He's bridging Western and Eastern traditions in a way that's practical, honest, and deeply needed. Yes, his audience might be mostly male gamers, but I'm not a gamer. I'm not male. And I find his work incredibly valuable. And this episode in particular spoke to me. And that's why I felt called to share this reflection with you. Here's something that might stir some people, but I need to say it. You don't need a certificate to talk about being human. You don't need a license to understand your own nervous system. And you don't need a PhD to guide someone back to their breath or into their body or toward their truth. Western culture sees yoga as fitness. So when someone like Dr. K or even someone like me starts talking about the mind or trauma or integration through yogic philosophy, people raise their eyebrows. You're not a psychologist. You're not a doctor. No, I'm not. I'm a human being who studied the mind by sitting in my own for years. I'm a teacher of breath, of presence, of embodiment. I've been in the trenches of rumination, and I've learned to feel my way out, not think my way out. And when someone asks, "Who are you to teach this?" my answer is, who are we if we don't? When I first went to therapy, I remember speaking about my past very, very clearly. I could lay out the patterns, connect the dots. It sounded like healing, but there was no emotion, no feeling. I was intellectualizing my pain. And I think my therapist saw that. Maybe she saw I could articulate my story without emotion. Maybe she saw the disconnect, the mask of clarity. And maybe yoga was her silent way of saying, go back into your body. Your truth is waiting there. She recommended yoga not just as an activity, but as a practice. And at that time, I didn't fully understand why, but now I do. Yoga gave me a space to feel what talking couldn't reach. It brought me back to my breath, back to sensation, back to the self that had been hiding underneath all the mental noise. And here is something I've learned. Trauma isn't just what happened, it's how what happened disconnected you from yourself. So when we talk about trauma through the story, who said what, who hurt us, what we survived, we're still orbiting around the wound. The deeper question is, how did this experience pull me out of myself? What part of me froze? What part of me shut down? That's what needs to be felt, not fixed. Felt. Thinking is a tool, but when it's used to bypass your truth, it becomes a weapon against yourself. It keeps you functioning on the surface, but frozen underneath. That's what rumination does. It gives the illusion of control, but really, it's a prison. And the only way out is through presence. Not more thinking, not more strategies, not more labels, but stillness, feeling, and breath. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychotherapist, but I am a yoga teacher, a guide, a woman who's lived this path. And the purpose of yoga, real yoga, is to guide people back into wholeness, into union, into self. And the deeper purpose of yoga isn't flexibility, it's integration, it's self realization, or what Jung calls individuation, to help you return to the wholeness you lost when life disconnected you, to help you stop looping in thought and start living in truth. If you're trying to think your way out of rumination, it won't work, because thinking is the very thing being used to bypass the pain. You have to go underneath the story, into the body, into the breath, into the energy that was frozen when the trauma happened. And this is why I create the practices I share, the I am loop, the meditations, the movements, the flows, the soul notes. It's not just wellness content, it's a way home. Not because I want to sound wise, but because I know what it's like to feel trapped in your own mind and in your own body. And I want you to know that you are not broken. You just haven't gone underneath the loop yet. When was the last time you sat with your overthinking, not to solve it, but to feel it, to meet the discomfort underneath it? Because that's where the truth lives. And here is the raw part. It's been over 2 years of being in what I call this in between space. And sometimes I feel like I'm right back where I started. But I know I'm not, because now I am choosing not to bypass the truth. I'm choosing to speak this, to live this, even if it's hard. And yes, some days it feels like I've gone backwards, like I'm right back in survival. But I'm not, because now I'm not afraid to tell the truth. The truth used to get me into trouble, but the truth is, and the truth sometimes really hurt. It stung, but it is what set me free. I'm not afraid to share the part of me that knows there's more than the surface. And I refuse to build my life on a loop. I don't want to live in a surface level world. I know I'm not alone. If you're listening and you're tired of talking around the wound, come back to your body. Come back to your breath. That's where the healing begins. If you're stuck in overthinking, if you can't stop spiraling, if you feel like your mind won't let you rest, please know this. You don't need to think more. You don't need more tools. You don't need more answers. You need to feel. You need a safe place to return to yourself. And that's what I'm here to offer. Take a breath with me. And first ask, close your eyes. What's underneath this thought? Whatever comes to mind. And feel the story looping. Not the words, but the sensation. And begin to notice, where is it in your body? Can you breathe into it without trying to fix it? And ask yourself, can I meet it? Not with logic, but with presence. This is the real work. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. But this is where you start to come back home. You've probably noticed by now, most of what I share, whether it's meditation, a soul note, or a podcast like this one, it's not about giving you answers. I'm not here to give you answers. I don't have all the answers. But what I am aiming to do is to reminding you that you are already whole, that you are not your story. You are not the thought that loops. You are not the wound that repeats. You are more than what happened to you, more than the labels you've absorbed, more than the overthinking mind that convinces you to stay busy and distracted and disconnected. That overthinking, that constant chatter, that addiction to mental control. That's not insight. That's not clarity. That's ego keeping you away from the feeling that brings you home to you. And that's the wound I want to meet, not to fix you, not to rescue you, but to invite you to remember a part of yourself you may have forgotten. And to reach that part, you need only one thing: willingness. The willingness to slow down, to meet yourself beneath the thought, to feel what's been avoided. That step can feel impossible, but that's exactly why it's powerful, because it breaks the loop, because it makes space for truth. And the truth isn't always gentle. Sometimes it stings, but that sting, it's not your soul being hurt. Your spirit is untouchable. The part that stings, that's the part that's been protecting you. The part of you that's afraid to come back home. That's where the ego hides, in the lower mind. So if something I said irritated you, let it. Sit with that and ask, why am I running from myself? Who am I without the story? That's where the return begins. If you're still here, thank you for listening, truly. I don't take it lightly. If anything I've said today has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to my channel, especially on YouTube. It helps more than you know. It allows me to keep sharing what I believe is needed: truth, not noise. And it tells the algorithm and the universe that someone out there is ready to go deeper. But only follow if it aligns. Don't follow because it's nice. Follow because you feel something waking up in you. And if you feel called, share your voice. Tell me where you are on your journey. What part of this episode met you where you are? What's a hard truth you've had to face about your own rumination, your own coping strategies? Maybe it's doubt. Maybe it's procrastination. Maybe it's the addiction to thinking itself. Whatever shape it takes, if you are ready to meet it, I'll be here. And I'll keep sharing as long as I am able, because we are not here to live at the surface. We are here to return to wholeness, to presence, to the self that never left, only got buried between the noise. And I believe you can get there. I believe I can get there, because if you've made it this far, some part of you already knows the way back. Until next time, be with yourself. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who breathes beneath them. Thank you for being here.